This is the story of Andreas Kresmer, a story of a boisterous young man whose boldness led to his unfortunate death. As a young teenager born in Pennsylvania, Andreas Kresmer set out to settle in the town of Bethabara, which was the first Moravian settlement in North Carolina. Kresmer then, after a few years, left to go to Old Salem. The town of Salem was the largest Moravian settlement in all of North Carolina. At Salem, he stayed at the Single Brothers' house. He was known as someone who was very mischievous and would often get into trouble. Often, he would pull pranks on his roommates by hiding their items. But Kresmer was a good shoemaker and started to make a decent living for himself while in Salem. But the church leaders did not like how much trouble he was causing. They decided that with less free time, he might not be able to be as mischievous. Therefore, they assigned him the job of cleaning chimneys. This job was extremely claustrophobic and dirty. The leaders thought this would be a great job for him because of his small stature, and they thought it would bring him a sense of humility. But Kresmer did not really enjoy his new job. Therefore, he decided to continue in his devious ways. This time, he decided to steal a head of cabbage from a local Salem resident. The church leaders were outraged by this and decided to punish him by assigning him to the Salem kitchen. This job, though, did not provide a good punishment for Kresmer. This new job and the feeling of punishment caused him to act out even more. He started stealing clothes and other items from various Salem residents, and the leaders were tired of his actions and decided to give him the job with the hardest labor and the most danger. This new job was to dig the cellar out of the Single Brothers' house. It was an extremely dangerous job because of the possible threat of a cave-in. The men were warned not to dig on their knees because it would make it hard to be saved in the case of a cave-in. If you were standing, your head would be above the rubble from the cave-in, but if you were on your knees, you would be enveloped by the dirt. The other men in the group digging out the cellar all followed the advice of the leaders, but of course, Kresmer never followed the rules and was not going to start now. On the day of March 25th, Kresmer was unusually quiet all day, even during the church service when he would usually start to act out. That evening, the men were digging out the cellar as they usually did. Using shovels, they worked with only candlelight illuminating the small basement room. Then, the ground began to rumble. All of the men started running, and all but two got to safety. Kresmer and a man named Joseph Dixon were buried by the horde of dirt. A rescue was attempted, and both men were able to be recovered from the rubble. Dixon, who was standing up, had just been covered up to his armpits and was able to recover in a couple of hours. Kresmer, on the other hand, was digging on his knees and was completely covered by the dirt. The men were able to dig him out, but his injuries were extensive. He had a broken leg, and he kept on complaining of pain. After the doctor opened a vein and saw there was very little blood flow, he knew that Kresmer did not have long in this world, and a few hours later, at 2 a.m. on March 26, Andreas Kresmer died from his fatal wounds. Kresmer was buried in God's Acre in the town of Salem, and his estate was sent to his mother in Pennsylvania. But part of Kresmer never left the Single Brothers' house. Not long after Kresmer's passing, strange things and sounds would be heard in the Single Brothers' house. People started to claim to hear the tapping of a shoemaker's hammer. Others claimed to see a little man in a red cap walking around the basement of the Single Brothers' house. Most thought it was clearly Kresmer because he was short and wearing his signature red cap and jacket when he died. When they heard something strange in the house, they would say, "There's Kresmer." These occurrences caused the creation of a local legend of Little Red Man, but the men stayed mostly silent because if they talked about the possibility of a ghost, they would be admonished by their church leaders. A few years later, the building changed to a home for widowed women. One time, a girl named Becky visited her grandmother, who was in the home. During her visit, she quickly ran to her grandmother because she said she saw a little red figure that beckoned her to play with him. Then a local wealthy man visited the cellar and saw a strange figure, and the figure started chasing him out of the cellar. The man quickly ran out of the cellar and looked back. When he looked, he saw a little figure with a red cap. standing in the door, grinning at him. The Little Red Man continued to be seen by people of all ages until 1950. In 1950, a minister was brought to Winston-Salem and was told the story of the Little Red Man. He then went to the Single Brothers' house and started walking around the building and invoking the Holy Trinity. Then, at the end of the visit, he proclaimed, "Little man, go to rest." After this proclamation, the ghost was finally laid to rest and never seen again. If you want, you can visit the Single Brothers' house today. It is located at South Main Street in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The building is open for tours from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday through Saturday, and 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Sundays. If you visit during October, they offer a special ghost tour, which includes a section on the Little Red Man. The surrounding area has several buildings that are restored to their original condition during the Moravian settlement. If you want to do some shopping, there are several stores in the area that offer goods, including the famous Moravian cookies.